The journey of material wealth is an incredibly spiritual journey. And yet so many of us in the spiritual community struggle with this. In this video, I'm going to share with you one of the most pervasive abundance blocks that I've been releasing, and which filming this video and putting it out there is going to seal the deal to heal. The block is that the less that I own, the less that I want, the more that I can prove that I can survive. This is not uncommon with spiritual people. It's not uncommon. Think of ascetics who give up everything, ascetics that the Buddha tried out being and was like, actually, this is not working. This is not working, and he promoted middle way for a reason. Middle way, in my experience of the almost around 13 years of being a Buddhist, has been proven to me through my own trial and error to be not only the most fruitful, but also sometimes the most difficult to get to, actually. It's been a journey. Of course, it's a journey. And thanks for participating in the journey too. So I'm really looking forward to seeing some comments below if you relate to some of these things in this abundance block. I had to go as homeless as possible to discover this as well. And when I went as homeless as possible, I remember I was sitting in the desert and I was reading this book called Refuge, and I was meditating on how the Buddha gave up everything. And this was something that I used to roll my eyes at, actually. I rolled my eyes at it when I read about it, when I heard about it years ago, early in my Buddhist journey, because I thought it was just ridiculous. I just thought, oh, come on, that can't be like, I rolled my eyes at it. And then I fell in love with this idea, how he gave it all up, the life of aristocracy. I was always obsessed a bit with becoming sort of homeless. I was also afraid of becoming homeless. And this video is about to go real deep. It's about to go really deep into childhood trauma. So if you're coming along for the ride, maybe you've been on it too, because you see, our abundance blocks, they're ingrained from our core negative wounds from childhood and from our ancestral wounds and the wounds of the collective too. So in this video, I'm also going to go through a few of those that are entwined with this block and what I'm doing to heal this and to release this. If you're on the journey of becoming more abundant, you are going to have to do the work to go into your childhood traumas, to go into your ancestral woundings, all of these patterns, to go in there, to become aware of it, to become conscious of them and heal them. Release them and heal them, and to live a more abundant life. Because you know what? The Creator, who we're all a part of, the Creator of creation, does not want us to struggle. No, in this video, I'm talking about this thing of survival, of proving that you are able to do it with as little as possible, because maybe you went through childhood trauma such as neglect from your parents, like your needs were not good enough, or your needs, you were too needy, or they were too busy, they were too caught up maybe in their own addictions. I grew up in a household full of mental disorders and addictions of various sorts. Alcoholism and drug abuse, workaholism. There was a lot of violence between my older sibling and my father, and my mother and my father. And it was just basically, I had to condition myself and I had to become hyper independent. And I prided myself on this for years. For most of my life, it became a Buddhist ideal that I clung to, of if I could just have less and less and less. These things intertwined. I became like this good little Buddhist also. Like my first Vipassana retreat, they ran out of mats, and I was like, well, it's all right. You know, I didn't even ask another person who worked there, like, are there more mats, or like, what else can I do? Nope. Instead, I just slept on wood for 9 days, proving my strength. Yep. And you know what I think about? Like, yes, I'm this resilient, wild woman. That's a part of my archetypal energy. That's a part of my essence as also as a priestess. I can put my feet in the mud. I can go and hike, 20-mile journeys with a backpack on, etc. But I also can take rest sometimes. I also am learning to take breaks. I also am practicing, taking this time off, knowing my capacity and not berating myself for that capacity. And also catering to myself instead of the blocks, catering to myself in holistic ways, like the wild woman. She sprays herself with the most organic, high vibrational perfume and clothing she wears. This is part of holistic self-care, and you are worthy of that too. This also entwined with other things in my life. I would enter an abusive relationship. It wasn't the only one, but the big first one that I entered when I was 22. And this really ingrained this even more, that I needed to have less things because I needed to have an escape plan. I could not have too many things because if I had them, then I would be tied down. I wouldn't be able to leave if I was caught in some kind of situation. So I had this mixed with this childhood trauma. Here's the funny thing about these wounds is you can either go one way or the other on the scale of binging or purging. For example, my younger brother, he's not a hoarder, but he's a collector, the opposite of me. So this pattern of getting rid of things, I developed this obsessive compulsive disorder variety called compulsive decluttering. This is a form of OCD. There's many forms of OCD, and if you want, I can make another video on OCD and spirituality. They're interconnected because as I've healed more and more and I've gotten more into my path, into my role as a priestess, as a light worker, it's required more and more degrees of trust and faith in the process, in the practice, in the divine, in my work in the world. And that has shifted me more and more out of obsessive compulsive disorder, which is all about control. You need to have control. And we adapt to this. We adopt these mechanisms, these survival strategies of OCD in childhood, really. I have this older brother he was very abusive to me and my other brother, and he was very much a hoarder. Okay, he has a lot of mental issues and he hoarded things. And his room, when I grew up, was very opposite of the way that mine looked. And I could go into hoarding, but I'm going to go more into this compulsive decluttering thing. So I would do this as a child. I would get rid of a lot of things and it would feel like this big cleansing. Granted, clutter, how they say like cleanliness is godliness. Okay, look, when we're very cluttered, it can be very distracting to the mind. It can be a defense mechanism too. Remember, I'm talking about this binging and purging, but this is why I'm talking also about middle way, getting over to the middle where you're balanced, where you're whole, where you're equilibrated, right? Where you're in this place of groundedness and trust in the divine, and you are balanced, right? And so you could go to this end of the spectrum or this end. So I took on this pattern since childhood, and it got more and more ingrained as I went through this abusive relationship. And after the abusive relationship, I left the country. I flew and I went to a foreign land I knew no one and nothing about much. And I lived there as an expat for many years. And then I continued this journey where I was a semi-nomad. And then I went out on the road at the end of 2020 and I became a full-time nomad where I lived out of a car, okay? And I lived in the backcountry and in far away, and I lived in my car sometimes, and I lived in the forest, and I lived in the deserts, and I had this crazy journey where I had just this storage unit. And I was kind of spreading out my things, but I'd go back to the storage unit and I'd purge more things. And sometimes I purged things that I needed, that I've had to replace because I wasn't discerning, because I wasn't grounded enough. But I started to get more and more grounded as my nervous system healed too. This is a big part of the work of healing childhood trauma, of healing really any kind of wounding. Because most of us in this world, whenever there's trauma, your nervous system is dysregulated. That's a part of it. And really, nervous system regulation is a key to being in a state of balance and wellness, to be in a state of thrival, to have these practices going daily. I think back to these masochistic things that I've done, like where I lived in this apartment outside of New York City, and I would not let myself, I only would let myself to a certain degree accumulate things. I never would let myself settle. I couldn't settle after the abuse. And it took me years, like, to start settling more and more, this practice of it. And so when we were locked down in 2020, I finally bought myself some drapes for my apartment. And oh my God, I couldn't believe it. The whole room changed just from some drapes. And it made me happier. It made me feel better to actually have this thing. I wasn't there yet. In fact, I'm in the process now. This year I decided I'm going to reclaim living in South Florida as my base. I don't know for how long. I'll always be a traveler. I'll be traveling throughout the year at different points. But I felt this call to reclaim where I grew up. And so I moved back now. And I'm actually this week and next in this process of moving to this new place. And of buying furniture that I can't really afford, but that instead of suffering it out, yes, I know, I can suffer it out on the floor, on a floor bed, or on my little camping blow-up pad, but is that really gonna be enjoyable in my bedroom, in my new bedroom? Does this help with the lighting? I'm putting some blue light up. I know I can suffer it out, but that's not actually going to allow me to prosper more. And instead, I visualized this new dream room. Yeah, it has a couple of things that I'm not crazy about. I wish there was more sunlight, but we're gonna work with this. And I visualized instead, I've put myself first in this vision of what it's gonna be like to be in this bedroom and be sleeping on this floor bed and have this gorgeous painting that somebody just gifted me with. It's one of the most beautiful paintings that I saw when I was 21 years old in the Musée d'Orsay in France. It's called The Night of the Flowers by Georges Roche-Gros. And I put it on my dominatrix wish list thinking, who knows, maybe someone will purchase it for me. Whatever, I've been putting things on there, more and more things that I really enjoy. And one morning I woke up with this thought that I had the painting. And when I went into my emails, I saw that someone had purchased it for me. It costs like $2,500 something with this. I put on the list the biggest painting, the biggest size that this reproduction company offers, and the best frame that I thought goes with it that I wanted. And I was like, wow. And this woman wrote, "Dear mistress, sometimes dreams come true." And I was like, oh, this is amazing, you know? And I thought of this painting that I would have on the wall, and then I'd be sleeping on some kind of floor bed. And I was like, this is a complete mismatch. No, I'm not doing this. Maybe it'll make me go a little bit more broke, a little bit more into debt to pull out savings at a really tough time, to have a better bedroom, to have a room with a bed. You know, I'm shopping wisely, and I'm shopping within my values too, but I'm not gonna make myself suffer. No, because I thought of it. I put myself in that mismatched frequency. And then I put myself in this other one where I've built this room, and I'm waking up feeling abundant in this room every day. I'm enjoying what I'm doing because I'm in an environment that's amazing. And I shared this with my brother. I'm gonna be living with my brother and some of our close friends in this house. And I was like, yeah, I was thinking of just doing this floor bed thing. And then I was like, no, I can't do this. And he's like, no, you need a room. I remember this one time, I feel like I'm gonna cry when I'm saying this. I remember this one time that I was being cheap, and I saw this really pretty nail polish in this shop, and my brother and I were on this trip together, and I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna get that. It's too much, I shouldn't spend it. And he took it and he bought it for me, and he's like, you should have nice things, he told me. And it was so special that this man in my life, who is my brother that I can trust, my little brother, bought this for me and showed me that I'm worthy. sometimes it does take someone else to show us that we're worthy. And I'll make another video on that one, going a little bit deeper. So I used to judge other people by how much material goods they had. I used to get off real hard. My spiritual ego used to get off real hard on requiring less, on that I know how to live in this harsh state, that I can survive. And I'm done with that. I know that I'm a wild woman. I know that I am resilient. I don't need to suffer. I don't need to be a masochist. And if this is a block for you, you don't need to be either. And hey, if you're here with me still while the sun has totally set, I shine this light on you. Now we have some low lighting in the background. I shine it on you and I say that this is not a block that you need to have anymore. And I deliver this frequency that goes beyond this human vessel of mine, that goes from my higher self to you. That this abundance is your birthright. Abundance is your birthright. You came here to be a creator, a conscious creator, and to live a nourished life, a life of thrival, not survival, okay? Survival is a mechanism that we can always click back into if necessary as humans. But this is not the frequency for us to be living in anymore in the new earth. No. And there's a difference between going to this end of the spectrum where the materialism is so, it's put above everything else, and you're not living in balance. You're not nourishing your relationships, let's say. You're placing it above everything else. Or this end where you have purged it all. You know, this is not the same as the yogis who give it all up when they know that they can manifest. They give it up to rely on and just God, to devote completely to God. This is different. Do you follow? Thank you. I feel a lot of fear putting this out when there's like no lighting now, but I'm gonna do it anyway because this message is for those of you who have needed it, who are here to be with this message. I love you. Thank you for joining me. If you like this video, give it a like. If you want to stay connected, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Mwah.